Hello everyone, welcome you all to the Natural Rubber in Ivory Coast, a special session, part of the Rubber Industry NewsHour. Today we have a guest, Mr. Edward Melage. He is a general manager of the Melage Trading Company from the Ivory Coast. He'll be discussing, presenting information on the natural rubber industry in Ivory Coast. As you know, Ivory Coast is becoming an important country for the natural rubber supply for the global market. So through Mr. Edward, we'll be able to learn all about natural rubber industry in Ivory Coast. Edward, thank you very much for accepting invitation to be part of this special session today.
Nice to you. Thank you to you, Peram. It was very nice, and I'm very pleased and honored to be part of your session.
Thank you very much. So the way we do this session is that first I will let you make a presentation, and after that we will have a conversation about more details based on what you present on the natural rubber industry in Ivory Coast. Okay, so let me invite you to give a presentation. Ask you to share your.
Our today's presentation will be about the natural rubber sector in Ivory Coast. We'll mostly be talking about how the supply chain is organized, how the sector is organized, what are the short and long-term challenges that we Ivorian and a local stakeholder face, and to be resilient in the business, and to be alive, we need to be profitable. And what are the act and what are the things that we're doing to be still attractive in the international market. So I'll be first presenting a little bit how much what's the natural rubber in IVC in numbers. So IVC it's been growing a lot in terms of production of natural rubber. And when we speak about natural rubber, we talk about wet natural rubber. IVC produce mostly about 1,200,000 tons of wet natural rubber. It's about mostly it's Kaplan. And we have about in 700,000 tons of dry natural rubber. TSR has been exported to the international market. IVC it's about 800,000 hectare planted, and here I say challenging because it's very tough for regulators to be able to give correct numbers. They most of the time tend to reduce the number of hectares planted to higher to give a higher yield per hectare. But we've been stakeholders and been always in touch with the farmers and producers. We really know a little bit more about what's the reality of the yields here locally, and that put us at about 800,000 hectare planted, if not a little bit more. IVC, it's the #1 producer of dry and wet natural rubber in Africa. We are the 4th one in worldwide, but I do believe that by the end of 2022, we should be the 3rd one. I really think the numbers, we will bypass Vietnam by little, but we will wait to 2023 to double check once again. So Ivory Coast is a country that it's located in West Africa. It is in a sub-Saharan region. It is a French-speaking country. We have a lot of different ethnic groups. The population is about 29 million based on the 2021 numbers. We are a very young population. As you can see, we have Most than 75% of the population is have less than 35 years old, and you have at least 50% of the population who is less than 25. So very, very young population. IVC is mainly a country known for its agriculture. We are #1 in the world in cocoa, with about 2 million tons exported, produced in IVC. In terms of raw cocoa, we are #1 producer of raw cashew nuts, with 1,200,000 tons, based on 2021-2022 numbers. And in terms of natural rubber, as I already said, we are the 4th in the world now. So all these exports needed infrastructure. So in IVC, in Ivory Coast, we have 2 main ports. The main port, it's Abidjan port. It's one of top 10 ports in Africa, and the #1 in the region. And we have the San Pedro port, who is the #1 port in the world for cocoa. So those 2 infrastructure allow the business to be smooth. We've been a stable country, at least for the last 15 years, I can say, since 2010. Been increasing a lot in terms of stability and access in infrastructure, and everything been increasing a lot. And it's been a very calm and pleasant country to live in. It's a nice country. So we will get a little bit into the rubber sector. In my presentation, I'll be a little bit discussing a lot on the farmers, but I understood, even discussing with Per on the convention in Kuala Lumpur, and attending some panelists, that farmers are not the same all around the world. So when we define a farmer, I understood that it's not the same type of person. His identity doesn't respond to the same generalities. So when we talk about Ivorian rubber farmer, we're mostly talking about the person who owns the plantation, most of the time even the land. I wouldn't say the land, because we have a little bit of issue. We're still developing the ownership, like legal ownership of the land that they are far in the bush. But let's say that traditionally they are the one who own the plantation. Most of the time they even own the production rights. So they're pretty much all male, and they are not young. They're very between 50 and 90 years old. There is very few young rubber farmer in IVC. They most of the time they're smallholder. They own about 1 to 2 hectares, and they own their land most of the time in the original village. They don't tend to increase or to find the best, let's say, environment, but most of the time they just go back to their born village or their original village and try to get a little bit of space and hectares, and then they start planning. And it's most of the time they does it because they want to be secure on the long term. You know, as I told you, we do plant and grow here raw cashew nuts and cocoa, but those these commodities, they've been harvested only 1 to 2 times a year, and for farmers it become very tough to do even let's say a planning or budgeting, and they find it more attractive to go into rubber, mostly because of the stability and the frequency of income that rubber gives to the farmer. So when we talk about farmer, we do not talk about the people who work in the plantation, not at all. We mainly talk about the people who own it, the ones who run the general process and who took some cash and invested into plantation. So the sector, it's regulated by two government associations. The first one is Conseil EVA Panier Huile. Normally it's being written CHPH. It's a joint regulator. It regulates either the palm oil sector and the rubber, natural rubber sector. And we have the APROMAC. APROMAC, it is the association with more focus on the pépinière, on the growing side, and it's more focused on the farmers, how to increase the yields, how to make sure that we have the best rubber trees and techniques. They're in charge of making sure that we have the right tapper, that we tap in the correct way. So they're more focused on the structure and less on the sector. Okay. So here you can. I'll try to get deep into a little bit what's our local supply chain in Ivory Coast. So in Ivory Coast, first of all, we have two different access to the international market. We have natural rubber being processed locally, who account for about 70% of the total production, and it go from the factories. It's on this side. You have the supply chain of the factory. There are about, let's say, 70% of the factories have their own plantation. I'll go a little bit more in detail about that on why, how it works, and what are the differences. But mainly you have, if we focus just on the supply chain side, you have the factory plantation. They collect the good themselves. They have their own labor people. They get it to their factory. They do the processing. Most of them they sell to third-party brokers, trader party, and it gets into the rubber market. Most of the trader, there are very few, if not none. Today, by the way, I heard about one trader who is 100% local company who act like a broker for the TSR, so for the dry rubber. But most of them, they were sold to European trader or Asian trader, and then it gets to the international market. Then we have the other streamline. That is streamline. It starts from the farm plantation. The farmer does the harvest. When he harvests, most of the time, as I told earlier, the farmer is not the one working on his own plantation in IBC. So we have most of the time his labor, who indicates him about the perception of the market and the price that we might be able to get once selling cash. And if you want to have the cash, it will follow this streamline. If he's willing to wait, the farmer plantation might have a code to a local factory, and he will be able to drop its production there and wait to get a payment, who normally will occur about 2 to 3 weeks. At the latest, a month later, is delivered. But he will he'll always have a better price when delivering to the factory and waiting for the long term to get his payment. But as you guys may know, um, the ability and the needs of a farmer to respond to the short and immediate charges will, at say 70%, have him sell to middlemen. You will have the first middleman, who's just somebody from his village most of the time, who will go around into the fields and the plantation, who discuss and offer to the labor um, to give to him the production. The labor will then contact the owner, and in the find agreement, this middleman will get the goods and sell it to another middleman who is most of the time is let's say headquarters is located at a weight bridge. The weight bridge is not a weight bridge of a factory, it's not a weight bridge of an exporter. It's just like a random weight bridge who's give most of the time cut the weight, the real weight, and uh, the cheaters. Most of the time they cheat on the final weight. And these people, they sell back, they collect about 20, 30 tons, and they sell it to a third middleman. This middleman is the first one who is a former, who is like a formal middleman, meaning that he has his own cash. He's the one most with like financing. Is the one with the real actor, the real stakeholder, the first one after the plant, the farmer. So most of the time is the one who have whether the direct connection to a factory or a connection to an export company. So the third middleman, he collects about every time 30, 20 tons a day. He pay cash and he waits the payment from the factory or from the exporter. There are different type of exporter. Um, the regulators now have shared a list of exporters being renewed every year. But even there are people who play the game, but they are not licensed exporters. So they are not, let's say, registered locally. And they buy from the third middleman, and they whether sell to licensed export company, and then it got sell to traders who sell it back into the farm, into the rubber market, international market. I hope that is not too much confusing, but it reflects the reality of the ground. As you can see, farmers account for about 75% of 75 to 85% of the natural rubber produced in Ivory Coast, and they are so far from the international market. So all these say unnecessary actor in the supply chain, they all make the supply chain long, less reliable, and they dilute the income of the farmer, and that's tend to make the business less sustainable. As our dear friend and General Secretary of ERGS would say, the sustainability is more of the income of the plantation, of the farmers. So if there are too many middlemen who really doesn't have any add value to the good, or they don't they do not influence the process or the supply chain. They just make it longer, less reliable, and they open up to all the cheating that a lot of people being confronted when dealing with African and Ivorian stakeholders. And I really want to point it out. It's very important to understand that the goal is to shorten all the process. We don't want all those middlemen to be here, and that'll be discussed more in details in the next slides. So as discussed earlier, the CHPH, Conseil Évier Pamir Huile, we already discussed a little bit about their goal, but I omit to say that their main goal is to have 0 tons of raw material, meaning Kaplan, exported by 2025. That's the main reason why the IBC government decided to create this regulator. And I think it's a very challenging goal. It's a necessary goal, by the way. We need that in order that will help a lot the supply chain and the farmer income to increase. By 2025, already pretty much arrived. Maybe we take a little bit more, but at least if the right goal is there, then I think that the rest will follow up. Okay, but I put in clear a little bit what they do. They issue annual license, and they make sure that they collect the data too on the market, international market, and they try and make sure that every stakeholder it's protected and is able to play the game under the rules, and that's very important because it allows us to have an idea of who is doing what in the country. 3-4 days ago, it was very tough to say that in the rubber sector in Ivory Coast because no one was knowing exactly if you were talking to the right stakeholder, if you were talking to just an informal middleman. So I think they've been doing a great job, and they have a long way to go, but I think we're there and we're pushing there. The APOMAC regulator, they're more focused on the farmer side, on the plantation side, on the production in terms of yield, hectares, the tapper. They are trying to form and new tapper and teach them the right international use on how to tap and how to have good quality raw material. And their incentive, whether it's good or not, and I think it's on the long term for sure it's good, is to trying to plant more rubber tree. They really into that. They sponsor a lot the plantation, rubber plantation, and before CHPH was created, the price of natural rubber cap lamp was set by APOMAC. Something that I omit to say is that in Ivory Coast, we have a bench monthly price at which the stakeholders need to pay the rubber in the end from the end of the farmers. So ideally, you cannot go to a farmer if, say, the bench price of the month is, say, it's a random example, $10. Okay, let's say $1. Okay, and you're not allowed to go and pay 20 cents to farmer. Okay, so that give an idea to farmers at which price their rubber should be paid from the stakeholder and the ones who offer them, who try to collect the rubber. That's very important because that they give them, not all of them are knowledgeable about the market. They don't have all the information where the market's been up, down, what are the fundamentals or whatever. So they rely on those two regulators to try and negotiate with their own ability the best price they can have. And sometimes when market it's go up, people will offer bench price with a premium. And when market is going down, sometimes they will offer them bench price with a discount. Um, but it gives at least they are not by themselves. They have a guidance on at what price the cap lamp should be sell. Okay, so I'll share with you a couple of picture of Ivorian plantation and tappers how they tap. Okay, locally. Uh, this on this slide you can see a little bit how the goods are collected. Those people on my left, the type of the middlemen, they collect right away from the farmer plantation. So they put into this net. So they wait in a very fortunate way the goods of the farmer, and they pay them cash right away. And here on the right you have when whether it's the middleman, whether it's the farmer, going right away on where this one is our facility. So at the export facility with the goods, and you see they come with the like tricycle, and they stand there, and when they get there, they most of the time we don't they don't come with less than say 500 kilo because we pretty much don't weigh less than 500 kilo. So you see there is the role and all those people there, and most of the time the owner of the good always it comes with whether his son or his nephew or whatever, who can help him with the writing, because sometimes they are not literate. We can follow up the payment and follow up the terms and whatever. Then I share a little bit how the container are stuffed. As you can see, I'm talking about cap lamp, okay? Containers come into the facility. They're stuck by hand. As you can see, a lot of women, they do play the role in the stuffing. They move the good from the ground to the container. We do how to say, we put a plastic bag around the container to contain the leakings that might occur during the shipment. That was very important because if you guys remember, in 2018, 2017, we have a huge problem in IVC with Maersk and other freight company that had a lot of leakings from cap lamp in on their vessel, and so all of a sudden they stopped collecting natural rubber cap lamp from Ivory Coast, and that created congestion in the market, and rubber dropped a lot in terms of prices, and nobody was buying. That hit a lot the farmers and all the local stakeholders that play a game into the sector. So government intervene big time, negotiating and finding ways and teaching how to stop cap lamp in order to have the green light from the freight companies to start back sharing and giving the containers to cap lamp purpose. So it's very important the staffing of the cap lamp because the impact whenever there is a leaking on the vessel, the company most of the time reduce or stop collecting cap lamp. So That's why regulators have been playing a huge, big role, and we need really to say thanks to them on this side because they were able um, to indicate and teach us the right methods on how we should stop to avoid the leakings on the shipment, and make sure that by doing that, the supply chain will still flowing and smooth and reliable, and making goods going out and cash going in. So it's very important. You can see how the stuffing is made, okay? And then we have the disinfection that take place with, I mean, we use SGS. There are Bureau Veritas too that does this work or this job, and all that we does it to avoid having like infection on the vessel. So it's very important. We put a little bit of dry bags. We put some after we put a plastic bag on it. We put a white cement on the bottom on the containers, and we put some wood to contain the pressure of the water and stop don't allow the water and the leakings of the serum to sneak out. Okay. Then I show you a couple of pictures of factories, local factories in IBC. The lines, like the common ones, we don't have. There are few very big companies. This one is a 100% Ivorian owned factory inland. Most of the factory right now, there is the new, let's say, pardon, they install the factory inland. Before they were mostly towards Abidjan. Now a lot of them they're inland. They have, and still we have a new promoter that they're investing into Kampla processing local. We have for sure the big companies. There's like Olam, Alstom, and Seacom with Bolloré Group that are investing a lot locally. We have SAPH, who's a very big company, Ivorian one, multinational, who is in some joint venture with some tire makers here locally. And as you see, people are aware of how to do the TSR. Locally, we're trying to increase the production of TSR and reduce the production cost, which is very important here. Electricity costs way more, and compared to Asia. Sure, the labor is cheaper for what I were able to understand, and we always have the couple of available 11 months a year, much all the year long. The factory have a direct stream of input of raw material, meaning the couple. Okay. As you notice, I didn't put latex factory because here it is very few farmers do latex, pretty much none. The one who do the latex mostly are the factory-owned plantation that they will might give like a percentage of the production for the latex and the rest for the couple. But beside that, I really have difficulties myself finding any farmers that does the latex, and I think it's because we don't have the knowledge, and the collecting latex, it's tougher compared to the capillum. So I think that that's the main reason why people not do a lot of pretty much any latex with a small order. So I try to resume a little bit, recap what are the short-term challenges, okay, in order to have a very strong sector here in Ivory Coast. So first of all, I think if everybody remember the supply chain needs to be cut dramatically in order to allow the farmers to be close to the market. We know that farmers never gonna sell directly to the international market. Sure, we can have cooperatives that got together that they are able to leverage debt and get into processing and then sell it to the international market. But that's not really realistically what in the short term could happen. I think that the main thing right now is to shore up the supply chain that allow the farmers to have better income. When farmers are happy, they are happy to go next month tap again. They're willing to put the money in advance to the tapper and take care of their plantation, make sure that they do it correctly. That's all because they have better income, as Salvatore will confirm. And it's very basic. But when we have a very long supply chain, that's not good. They got discouraged because middlemen will offer them very bad price. When they look at it, sure, it's a little benefit, almost none, and they don't give a lot of incentive to keep harvest. And the younger generation, if there is not a good income, they are not really willing either to go into the sector, because if my dad is losing money, I won't do it myself. Okay, so that's the main, for me personally, that's the main challenge. Okay, the supply chain, and then for sure the percentage of locally processed capital. We need to have more factories and even small, bigger factories that process locally the capital. It's very important. We need it because a lot of had value that been lost selling the capital to third countries, okay, to Asia, and that reduce the capacity to add value to the product, and so that's the second main challenge. And then I put logistics because right now a lot of TSR, so process rubber, goes to Asia, okay, and today freight are very high in terms of cost. Freight costs are very high, and there is all this transit time that is very long, and that spread up the gap and the cash flow gap. And I think that logistics is a very huge aspect for processed rubber and even for capital, because we only have 3 freight carriers that collect natural rubber capital. Okay, and that's very tough because we have about 350 400,000 tons that been exported, and it put a lot of pressure on the exporter of the Kaplan, because working with only 3 freight companies tied up your option. So if there is not a vessel this week with this one, and you might lose 2 or 3 weeks without being able to export, and when you're not able to export, you're not able to pay again new Kaplan with the farmers. So that put more pressure to the farmer, who are confronted with lack of buyer, because if the cash is stuck in the water, it's become tough to renew the lines and everything, you know. Medium-term challenges, for sure, in order to increase our production and to increase the data to better allocate our finance, we need to have better traceability. Okay, I will remember discussing with Salvatore about the difficulties of understanding whether the data that we all have in hands are the right ones or not. Sorry. Because the data shared by the regulator are not really always, doesn't really reflect the reality, okay? For different reasons, whether they miss the capacity or they do not have the capacity to collect correctly the data, whether they have to be politically correct and share a little bit some good job. they do great job, but sometimes they're not really too much connected with reality. And so we need good data to highlight the difficulties, the problem, and solve the problem. So traceability is key, and traceability costs money, because when you put up when you create a platform where you can have the correct collection of data, the traceability, it costs money. You need to teach and the farmers and your people how to collect the right data. You need to invest into that, and that's a cost, okay? And for now, in the rubber, there is not a premium money for traced goods, traced material or sustained material, you know, and that's very important. And we have to increase the capacity of the factory to buy directly from farmers. Okay, today the farmers, they are able to sell directly to the factories account just for 30% of farmers. They are the one who are able to wait to get the payments. Okay, so they are big farmers. So the one that during their professional life they had a steady and good income, they were able to save. So as they are not tied up with their own cash, they can take the chance and deliver directly to the factories. Okay, and have a higher income. So I think that this challenge needs to be confronted and to be faced both by the factories and by the regulators too, because the factories, from my perspective, should put in place a better way to pay cash with the farmers, and should have a real department who really go step by step and trace all the farmers and understand and create financial backbone who can allow them to facilitate the convoy of the farmers go from the farmer plantation to the factories headquarters. Okay, and then regulators, for sure, they can put down maybe let's say a support bank line that can allow the farmers when they deliver not to wait 30 days to get paid, not to wait a month and a half to get paid. Okay, the farmers, they're not stupid. They don't go to middlemen because they don't know where the factory is. That is not the case. They go to middlemen because when they do the trade-off between the cash and the price, they choose the cash. Okay, and that's, I think, should make a lot of all the international groups and international organization think about this issue. Okay, the farmer, even though some of them are illiterate, they are not illiterate about the money. They understand the value of the money. They really know that deeply, but they are forced to do a trade-off between cash and value income. Okay, so that's really need to be, I think, that's a challenge that really need to be faced. Then the long-term challenge. From my perspective here, as we discussed earlier, IVC, it's a young country. Okay, most of the people, even in the region, we have a very young population. Okay, 70% of the population, 75 of general region population has less than 70 of has less than 30 years old. Okay, so we know that African population, sub-Saharan region population will increase by a lot. A lot of population needs to a lot of good that need to be consumed. Okay, and that means that we do think of diversify the byproduct of the rubber. Sure, we are all focused on tires. Tires very important, very used product. But I do believe that even the tires are not as well established in our region. We still sell mainly to Asia to have the TSR process into rubber or any type of byproduct, and then sell back to Africa. I will add the Africans do not tend to buy brand new tires. They do not. They mostly use escape tire, like already used tire. They put it when they break a tire. Most of them they put used tire import from Europe. Okay, but now we have a middle class who's flourishing. Okay, economy is doing better. So we need to. That's a huge possibility in terms of market to be able to create new market. We cannot only always rely on China to absorb the quantity of TSR. And we've seen that these days, when China is slowing down, prices slow down. And when price slow down, well, income for all stakeholders drop too. And so I think that in the long term, we need to be able to diversify market and byproduct coming from TSR, from the rubber sector. Okay, we cannot all rely on always on weather tires. Now everybody's involved in Malaysia, and I think that we need to diversify, open up market, create new bridge. We can have a factory that process TSR locally into pneumatic and have a new channel distribution locally. So I think we need to address this issue too. Very important. Then I recap a little bit what we discussed in terms of margin and reducing and shoring up the supply chain. So I do believe that I discussed about that kind of in an exhaustive manner about how we can increase this make IVC more attractive. Okay, IVC it's very open country. We have all type of beliefs. Okay, we have Christian, Muslim, no problem on that. We speak French. New generation learning English. Very open up country. One of the top fast growing economy in the world in all around Africa. So it's a land of opportunity, that's for sure. Okay, but we need to transform the opportunity into profit, and that's the challenge. Okay, and today we have farmers who do not need who have the same lifestyle standard as Asian farmers. Okay, so we need to, and that's not going to last forever. Okay, they will evolve too. So we need to upgrade and push now and make sure the natural rubber, become a real stable and flourishing sector here in Ivory Coast. A lot of people love rubber here. We love it because it's all around commodity, all year round commodity. It's very important. The government is giving a lot of tax break for new factories to be installed locally. One thing I did not discuss about, and it happens to me to have a very huge discussion with our internet local investment bank, Ivorian local investment bank, with a state-owned bank. It's about access to finance. Okay, to invest, you need to have this finance access if locally. Okay, so government been developing programs to support the local processing, okay, through the National Investment Bank. I do believe that borrowing here in Africa is still very expensive, and that's I think one of the challenges too that need to be addressed. From our perspective, we are way more focused on the business itself, meaning that we need to have the right knowledge about the market, about the processing, about the plantation before looking for the finance. Okay, because collect debt and getting finance when you don't know what you're doing, that's dangerous. Okay, but today we have a lot of actors, that local actors that are trying to explore international market understanding, and they are confronted sometimes with lack of finance. And I think that our finance system, local system, is still not top as Asian and European or American one. But I do believe that we're getting there. We'll get there. So that was a little bit, I'll say, the recap of my perspective, the general overview of the natural rubber sector in Ivory Coast. There are some approach. I think that it's very high-growing, like everybody can understand that there are issues that are not very difficult to solve, okay? But I think it's more matter of timing, organization, and be well organized and have the right approach, okay? Um, so I took the last, let's say, part of the presentation, the PowerPoint, to address a little bit how we, as a millet trading company, how we do in what we do and what is our vision, and how we were able to, my perspective, we haven't gotten know, but how were we able to get where we at and what are our following challenges, and uh, so that's the second part of this presentation. So, millet trading company, it's called most of the time MTC. It's a family-owned company. Okay? We, me, myself, Edward, and the general manager. In French, there is a little difference between general manager and administrator. Here we will say administrateur général. Also, our company has been founded in 2016. We started trading, first of all, the raw cashew nuts. We started not as an exporter, but we started as local buyers. Okay, we were buying the bush and collecting and selling locally to exporters or processor. We got into we got bigger because we were better organized. We understood that we need to be accountable to be able to be bigger from the long term. We understood too that we need to go step by step. Firstly, we tried to understand to solve the biggest challenge that we think it's the inland supply chain of the two commodities that we do, meaning all the process from the farmers to the export. Okay, so once we pretty much manage all the different steps of the supply chain, we were first actor into the supply chain, then we're trying to rebuild it and reorganize, understand, and cut all the necessary steps and middlemen. We increase our efficiency by investing into logistics and trucks and infrastructure, and that allow us to be more reliable with our partners and customer abroad, mainly in Switzerland and Asia. Okay, sorry guys, let me drink a little bit because I am running out of oxygen. Sorry about it. Okay, so millet trading company, we have 24 people working the company, permanent workers. We were able to build a facility in Dabu. Dabu, it's our family original region. It's about 40 kilometers from Abidjan port. We have a facility that's spanned on 3,300 meters square out there in Yulil, exactly. And we buy kaplam from the west part of IVC. Pretty much all producing region, we already had operation, a buying operation there. Before getting into rubber, we try to we implement the steps that we did in cashew that made us successful in cashew. So the managers, myself, we spent about a year and a half inland IBC buying Kaplan from the farmers, from the platform, from the middlemen. So we truly, I believe that we are the only exporters, and I'm pretty comfortable saying that because I know the others and uh, good companies too. I'm not talking bad about the other company at all, but we are the only one that truly been buying the kilo of rubber from the farmers, hand to hands, from inland, from the frontiers, and putting that into truck, bringing that into our facility, stuffing, waiting. We truly know every step of the supply chain, and I think that that's the reason why Pearline invited us to the to the to the session. We do the direct procurement with the other stakeholders, the reliable ones. We've been into that, and we understand the inefficiency of the current supply chain. We do even understand and know the habits of the different farmers coming from the different area. A quick example, okay? We grow cocoa a lot in IBC, but not all regions that produce are producer of cocoa. The farmers that grow rubber in cocoa area, they have little hectares, maybe 1 to 2 hectares maximum. Okay, they do care about the rubber, but it's not the main source of income. They get the main source of income from cocoa. Okay, they're very focused on cocoa, and they do not tend um, to sell, to tap correctly. They need to be teach more. They really not aware about the pricing, even knowing we have upper the prices. They have difficulties finding tappers because the tappers out there understand that the owner of the product or the production is more focused on the cocoa, so he's not in a hurry to sell his rubber, and until he doesn't sell the rubber, we not pay him. So there are different uh, specific aspects of different producing region. They make it difficult to have the same way of buying all around IBC. We need to understand what are the reality that the farmer from Zanye, who is a region close to Liberia border, react compared to a farmer from Dabu, which is our region where we have our headquarter, operational headquarter. They are not the same. The farmer from Dabu, most of the time, he has a little bit bigger plantation, very aware of the market. He has a way more factory close to him that are willing to buy his capital and his rubber. So the different type of way of running the business and way of doing the procurement and challenges from the change from area to area. But we've seen all, and I'm very comfortable saying so. Okay, so we were able to retrace all the logistic, and we have our trucks that collect from the inland area and bring it to our factory facility in that. Okay, understanding traceability was a big point. We attack it very quickly. So we have a in-house department of for let's say everything is related to technology. Okay, um, so we built up an app, in-house app, tailor-made for rubber and raw cashew nuts. So we collect all the data for our farmers. We know, first of all, we do the identikit. Each farmer that comes to our platform, it's census. So we have his name, his phone number, his plantation. Most of the time, our procurement team have been there. So we know, we help them figure out the hectares that they have, because they will tell you most of the time the number of trees that they planted. Okay, sometimes they think they have 2 hectares, but sometimes one. Sometimes they think that they have 5 hectares, but in reality it's less than that. So we do that. It's an investment, but it allows us to have them in our pipeline. Okay, we are able to understand to the yield, production yield uh, in their plantation. Okay, a regulator will tell that we have a yield of maybe 2 tons or 1 ton and 700 kilo per hectare. That's not accurate. I'm really sorry to say that, but that's not the truth. Okay. The reality, first of all, depends of which type of tree we're talking about. Are we talking about a young plantation, or are we talking about a whole plantation? Okay. If it is a young plantation, on 1 hectare, at the most, a common smallholder will be able to collect 500 kilo. Very tough for him to go towards a 1 ton. It's not really real. It's not realistic. Okay, that doesn't happen. And when his plantation goes get older, with the trees getting more deeply in the on earth, they are able to collect more needs in how to say ingredients. Sorry for the French. To deliver more couple, more rubber. Okay, and even when the trees are older, our farmers realistically on a 1 hectare, it's tough for them to go at more than 1 ton per hectare, 1 ton point 2 per hectare. Not easy, very difficult. But then the processor, when they on their own plantation, they are able to attain a yield of about 1.7 1 ton 700 kilo per hectare. But those are the processor on their mature plantation. Okay, but they account only for what, 20%, 15% of our of the Ivorian wet production of natural rubber. So they don't affect numbers. I trust me, when I was when I was building up the PowerPoint, I was looking for data, okay, because we have our own data. But when I was adding number, there was a matching. So I understood that we have a problem. Meaning what? That the regulator will tell you that we are producing 1,200,000 tons, and we planted 600,000 tons of hectare, which is just not true, because they will heads up to 2 tons per hectare, which is not accurate. So I thought that we were having the issue collecting the right data. So I was kind of understanding with my team, but why they say that we have different numbers? Are we wrong? And I call farmers that speak directly with him. We have parents that are farmers, and they told me, no, your data is correct. So I understood that there is a huge gap, huge gap. There is no 2,000 to 2 tons per hectare. Doesn't exist. And I'm sorry to be very brutal, but I'm saying facts, okay? Um, I've been really looking into our own data. Our own data tell us a more dramatic number. On 1 hectare mature plantation, we tend to have 1.2 ton per hectare, no more than that. Okay. When we have a young plantation, um, we don't exceed 500 tons. Very, very rare. Okay. And that's with ninth, we say knife here. I don't know how you guys say it now internationally. 9 knife, so much we go to 8 to 9 knives. Mostly will be 500 kilo per hectare on a younger plantation. Okay. So collecting the right data is very important for us, very important. And we know that there is more plantation that got into production now, because sometimes we have farmers that they may have planted, like say 3 hectares, but they only have 2 they are ready to produce, and the one that will get in production in 2023. So we kind of trying the best as we can to follow up that too. And by doing that, it allows us always to have direct feelings on the availability of natural rubber capellan in our area. Okay, we are not as big as Olam or Alshon, whoever, to be able to give so precise data for all production region. But in our region W, it's still kind of art of rubber. We produce about 200,000 tons of natural rubber capellan out there. We have 2 factories, 3 factories that are in the range, in the 50-kilometer range on from our platform. So it is really a heart of rubber in Ivory Coast. So we are right now very precise on data from our area. We have more than 1,500 farmers that they are part of our platform, and by being very close to them, we allow them to do not have the necessity to do a trade-off between price and cash. Okay, so more than price, I'll say in better income and cash. Okay, sure, we are not multinational, but on our reality, we structure a business. We pay pretty much cash to the farmers. So all the farmers that they deliver today, they got paid the next day. Okay, so they don't have to do any trade-off. And by doing that, we are always able, for sure, to cut all the middlemen and make sure that the farmers has the right incentive to do good and always come to us, giving us more capellan. And I think that's, as Salvatore we said, that's a real sustainability, okay? And to develop that, it took us time, and we needed to be very, very cautious and numbers-oriented management. We could not be lavish, okay? We we needed to create enough cash that we could put us in the best position to satisfy all the farmers, because sometimes we forgot that without farmers we don't have a job. Okay, we cannot plant. We can plant what, 10 hectares, 500 hectares. We don't have the capacity, and it's not our job to plant 700,000 hectares of rubber. Okay, so we need to think to make sure that we put our little grain seed into the sustainable part of this business. If not, one day we will look for rubber, and we will be the one importing a natural rubber Kaplan. And we don't want to do that. And if you don't want to do that, we need to address the issue now. Okay. So we are very proud of our financial structure right now that allow us to do that. And right now we are into the phase of discussing with our local banks to prepare to build up a TSR processing factory. Okay, so that's who we are. We right now we trade about 3,000 to 4,000 tons of Kaplan per month. When I say per month, I mean from September till February. Okay, because then we go way more into cashew, and export of Kaplan got reduced a lot in the down month. So that's a little bit our reality. And on the very long-term goal, we would like to start process even a TSR, and open up all the opportunities that we have in West Africa, in the sub-Saharan region. So we would like to be able to, say, produce whether low, not high premium tires, but let's say people tires, and sell them in Nigeria, Mali, Burkina, Niger, Liberia, Guinea, all those countries in our region. All those people they import, and most of the time the importers don't have the right let's say distribution channel, and I think there is a lot of opportunity, and that's a little bit who manage trading he is what we do, and I think that he ends up a little bit he end up the presentation, and I hope it was enjoyable. I hope that you were able to catch the challenges and the opportunities that come for the rubber in short term, medium term, and long term in Ivory Coast. So thank you very much, and I think that we made it through.
Okay, thank you, Edward, for very informative, information on the Ivory Coast, what is happening, and also your company vision, Malesh, what's the plans, and also the structure of it. It's very, very informative, very exciting to know about what's happening in the Ivory Coast.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate to say, we'll have a discussion together with Mr. Salvatore Pinigiotto. He's the Secretary General of the International Rubber Study Group. As you know, he's also one of the expert in the natural rubber across the world. And so Also, I would like to invite him to join this discussion to learn more, or maybe he has some questions to ask you to about the Ivory Coast. Mr. Salvatore, please join us.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Edward. Thank you, Pera.
Hi.
And thank you for calling me the expert of natural rubber worldwide. I don't think so. but no, I have a couple of consideration, if you may, on my side, because
Sure.
of course we spoke a lot with Edward about Côte d'Ivoire and also the world natural rubber market. I think, first of all, it's important to recognize, the great work that Côte d'Ivoire has done in relation to growing the natural rubber plantations, because behind that expansion, I think there is a lot of work that the organizations involved in natural rubber business have done, both in terms of research and development, and also in an effort of train smallholders and farmers to do the job in the right way. So this is very important to say. The growth doesn't come out of the blue, but is the results of an effort that has been done and that the government has also supported. So I think this is important. And Côte d'Ivoire is one of the ISG member governments, and we organized together with the governments of Côte d'Ivoire a World Rubber Summit in 2021. And this in recognition of the efforts that they have been done and the results that they have reached. And today, they are the fourth producer in the world of natural rubber, so it's important. It's an important reality. Now, it's clear that there are, as Edward was saying, there are challenges yet to be overcome. One of which, and I agree with him, is we need to make this supply chain a bit more slim, a bit less complicated, and make sure that smallholders can get closer to the market, and also provide them the technological tools that might put them in the condition to come up to a price discovery earlier than it is now. Right? So they need to have those tools in hand that empower smallholders with their own business. So this is certainly one. The other issue is that there has been a lot of investments in trying to close the gap between the production of raw material as such and certainly moving forward to produce more added value products like TSR. So there have been investments there, but still the gap is there, as Edward was mentioning before, and that gap has to, over time, needs to be closed in a way. And together with it, the Ivorians need to develop a proper plan in terms of increase of internal demand on one side, because the internal demand is close to zero. Basically, it's very low. But also in terms of, when we speak about export, we immediately think to Asia and to China. But as Edward was saying, look, the African continent is huge, with a huge potential there. So when we speak about producing tire in Côte d'Ivoire, maybe we should ask ourselves what kind of tire and what kind of raw materials we need. Because certainly it is very different to produce tire for the big tire companies and for the European market and for the American market. And if another story is to produce, as Edward said, normal tire for normal people in Africa, right? So I think there we need, I think the Ivorian needs to really think about very carefully what they want to achieve. Also, Edward was mentioning about latex production that is very low, and what is produced is basically, I think, mainly export to Europe. But no, I think the European market is one of the main markets in terms of glove consumption or glove use. So you have there you are big markets very close to you that can be exploited in that kind of direction as well. So maybe also looking at increasing latex production might be an opportunity. So I think that there are a lot of strength that Ivory Coast has, a lot of opportunities, but they need to do a similar kind of work that they did when they thought to increase natural rubber plantation. So having a vision and trying to understand where the investment should go. There is a huge opportunity also to invest in green factories, green industrial plants, and not even mentioning the circular economy opportunities there. Now, when I went to Ivory Coast, I saw a lot of tires along the streets and basically left there. Now, I think there is a huge opportunities of collect and recover part of that material as well. So the potential are huge, very huge, and I think also I was a bit concerned when he said Côte d'Ivoire has a large young population, but no young people want to join the rubber sector. So that's, I think it's a pity, because the rubber sector should be one of the driving forces for young people to make a life and to earn a decent salary out of there. So we need to put in place all these activities, and certainly it will take time, but I think that is the right direction moving forward. And Côte d'Ivoire is best placed of many Asian producing countries in doing so, because when Edward speaks about smallholders, and we don't, especially you that are in Thailand and me that are in Singapore, it's not exactly the same kind of smallholders that we are speaking about. Smallholders in this part of the world are more pulverized, less organized. The smallholders in Côte d'Ivoire are more structured in a way, and I think this is a very important point to stress, because also when he speaks about the traceability, one thing is to do traceability in Côte d'Ivoire easier, relatively easier. Another thing is to do traceability in Indonesia or in Thailand itself. So I think there are a lot of strengths there that they can use at their own advantage. But certainly, I would not abandon the idea of investing on the green economy side. Also, because now there are a lot, especially if you want to export part of your production, that I think in any case you would like to do to Europe, for instance, you need to comply with a lot of regulations in place, and you need to do certain things that helps you to comply with those regulations. So that is important. And then another factor that I would like to point the attention is, when we speak about another rubber plantations, we need also to look at the impact of climate change. no, we had a webinar today about this topic, climate change and natural rubber systems. But I think that is something that we have to consider, and I would like to invite the government of Côte d'Ivoire to put natural rubber in their own national adaptation plans. That right now natural rubber is not there, and and because it helps in planning, and today adaptation of natural rubber systems is very, in relation to climate change risks, is very important, and it will become very important in the future. So those are the steps to me that they have to do. And I am quite confident that Côte d'Ivoire is and will remain also in the future, really an important producer of natural rubber, and I hope also of rubber goods worldwide.
That's true.
Very valid points. Very valid points. Edward, you want to add anything to what Salvador said?
Oh, yes. I mean, as you said, Salvatore, it's a monument for national rubber worldwide. When you speak with him, you're able to have on the same mind different data coming from different part of the world to give, I believe, a correct vision and a view of where we should go and what's happening. As he mentioned, the farmers are not the same. And in the beginning of the presentation, I shared the identikit of the Ivorian farmer, who is not the one working in the field, but is mostly the one owning the field and having the right on the production of the good. It's changed a lot, because means that from his perspective, he needs to be able to manage the cost that he's gonna have with his labor, the cost that he's gonna have with the transport, and how much he's gonna sell, and does he have enough income to be able to respond to all these costs and get out with a profit. So he's not a typical farmer. For what I understood, compared to Asia, for what I understood, I don't want to be wrong, and that facilitated the incentive given by the regulators, because as he said, that haven't been done by the private sector like that. It's government willingness to push on that and to really invest into rubber. Then maybe we should have think earlier about the processing and not only on the production. But I think that I'm somebody who's most of the time positive on things. It takes time to adjust in the regulators, and nothing happened one day. Okay, we increase processing without production doesn't get there. Production without processing become tougher. But the more you move forward with the correct view, and I think that, as I said earlier, the regulators do have the correct view. We have a goal of 2025, 2025. We want 0 kilograms of Kaplan to be exported. So that's a big challenge, okay? And are we gonna get there? Not sure, but we want to get there. There is the path. So I think that the private sector now need to be more involved, and access to the market, it's very difficult for private sector. I mean, the small processor, they do not have the same price on the TSR 20. They have most of the time they're selling discount, and that's giving them less income, less lower price, and I think we need to get the Ivorian sector need to be more accountable, not only through the subsidiaries of the big multinational company, but even say a local who's willing to invest into the processing need to be able to have the right, let's say, documentation, the right, you need to have the right access to the market. You need to be able to compete as the others are doing. And that will help him increase the production, the productivity of this factory, and that will make it more profitable, will strengthen the local processing and sector. And that's very important because that tied up, shorten up the supply chain. It's very important. And for me, I think that the government cannot do it all. We need us as private sector to understand, to take the chance to open up, to move, to be part of a session like that, understand what's going on, and understand too that today market doesn't need to be our market. What I mean by saying that, today market, we have the reference, the SICOM, okay? SICOM is for Asia, okay? And it's a benchmark of global traders and actors. That's very important. But we need to have, as we are saying, even a local African market where we can still import pneumatic, we can still import goods from Asia, but we need to have at least a small percentage of local consumption of TSR. It's very important. That's what I think.
Eduardo, the important thing is you can have a local market or a local price benchmark, but it's very important that the rules of that market are clear and transparent, because one big difference that is between the big exchanges like SICOM or Shanghai Future Exchange is that everyone knows the rules. I mean, the rules are very clear. Everyone knows the rules, and there is a regulators that actually are looking at, checking that the rules are applied. Now, when people speak about the local market, regional markets, and so on and so forth, now it has to be clear that we need to understand what are the rules. Sure. Because those markets have to be transparent, right? And because this is the role of a market, basically. The premium of an exchange is that they make things more transparent. Without the Shanghai Future Exchange, we would know nothing about the price in China. Yeah. Okay, because everything will be blurred and will be secret. At least today, we have a reference price there. And the same has to apply in Africa. Now, if we want to have a reference price for Africa, because regional markets are interesting, but to me there is this weakness, right? Who is the regulator? Who is behind it? Now, who is making sure that the rules are clear, transparent, and everyone play by the rules? In a way.
Edward, I want to touch on this. We talk about TSR. How many factories are there now in TSR factories in Ivory Coast?
We have about 20 factories that are already in IVC, and we have about, if I'm not wrong, 10 they are building up. So I think that we're pushing there, and there is been a lot of new factories from local that have been getting up from the ground. And So we pushing there. We're trying to get there. The numbers are really increasing. But Peram, allow me, maybe I use the wrong word. When I was talking about market, I wasn't talking about paper market. I was mostly talking about physical goods market, meaning we need to have a local, um, uh, like the demand of the TSR need to be even local, not the market as a paper market, as a SECOM. I don't know if I did, maybe I expressed myself wrongly. I totally agree that today, in today's world, it's not, we don't have the condition to make to have a regional market here in Africa for different reasons. But I wasn't even going into that. But I wanted to point out that Malaysian factory, when they sell, they do have buyers. They maybe are in Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, China. They are not so far. Here, the processor of TSR, when they produce, they don't have any local market to sell. We cannot sell to another factory who will use a TSR and use it to make a pneumatic or whatever.
No, this is clear. This is what we were saying before. You need to create a local
demand.
Local demand. So I apologize if I did express myself wrong. Okay.
So you are putting your TSR factory. What capacity you're going to, we're going to plan?
You want to know the secrets? You want to know the secrets?
No, not secrets, but at least you see the focus. There's Juro export Kaplam, all TSR. So that you should
yeah. Be careful that Peram is a journalist, So it's.
Oh really? No. So we plan on going photon hours factory.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's going to up and running next year, is it right?
Yes, 1 year and a half, because with machinery, we're a little bit behind. You have the planning, but then to get the machinery in, it's not that easy, and the finance got delayed too, and it's tougher here. It's not the same as Asia. Asia, you guys move fast. Here, woof. Good luck with locals, but we're getting there. I think that in 1 year or 1 year and a half, we should be all set.
So Edward, when you're talking about Ivory Coast, but there are many other rubber producing countries in Africa. In Southeast Asia, you see a lot of collaboration and cooperation between Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and also Vietnam. We are newly coming on Laos and this year. Do you have like any collaboration among the African, NR producing countries, or are in the process? Maybe the Salvatore and Edward can share some light on it. It's always go together as a group, and so that there's a lot of extra information, and even they're competing the same products, but at least you're talking about transparency. The word transparency comes only when it comes to sharing it in the right way, right? So, yeah.
I totally agree with you, but I have to be very sincere. And I think that's cultural. I do believe it's cultural. In African culture, you rarely hear discussion between, let's say, competitor or people playing the same field. And I see the same thing in cashew. It's not only about rubber, okay? In cashew, we do have some platform of sharing on Ivorian basis, but there is the good sharing, and there is, allow me to say that the fake sharing, okay? Because you might speak with, say, a colleague in rubber, or somebody who's trading rubber too, who's an actor in rubber. Well, he will share you something, but you really doubt that maybe the numbers are right. And then maybe a month later, you heard that he got busted because he was dealing with the person that you knew that weren't accountable and everything. So there is, we don't have that for the moment. I think that it's a lot of culture. I think that regulators need to, and organizations such as Salvatore's one, need to work more on that and create, let's say, a security net, because we all want to keep our customer. We want to make sure that it's still only our customer. You need to buy only from us. That doesn't happen. They buy from everybody and they sell to everybody. So we all sell to the same people who know each other. And but on our side, we do not share. I do not know what's going on in Liberia. I do not know what's going on in Guinea. I do not, and I will have difficulties having the right information. So I don't know if Salvatore has something different to say, but that's my perspective from it.
Unfortunately not. You know, in LSG we have Cameroon, we have Nigeria, we have Cote d'Ivoire, and my vision was to try to help them actually to work together, because to me makes a lot of sense, because there will not be winners here. Everyone will win or everyone will lose at the end of the day, and competing with each other is basically a fight among producers, but that doesn't bring much good to any country at the end of the day. So I think they would gain more if they could work together, for instance, on research and development, if they could both on the upstream and on the downstream side. No, I think they could do a lot of activities together, and I think that would be the direction. We might even include Ghana or Liberia, that are maybe the other two countries that produce a bit of natural rubber. But the same we could say about Asia, because the collaboration among producing countries in Asia, yeah, it's there, but it's not at the end of the day. Also in Asia is a competition between producers, because Thailand basically compete with Malaysia and Indonesia, and not speaking about Cambodia and Laos, and the same the other guys. So at the end, no, there is this kind of competition going on that doesn't help much. I think they should more focus on addressing the main challenges. The cooperation should be in there. Now they know what are the main challenges. They should address those challenges. Unfortunately, those challenges are the ones that not many would like to address. So this is pity situation, because when we speak about reducing supply chain or intermediaries in Cote d'Ivoire, but what about Thailand? It's the same. What about Indonesia? It's the same. Now I remember one of the first IRDB conferences that I went was in Indonesia, in Jakarta, and they were speaking about intermediaries along. Now today we are speaking about the same thing, because because basically on these aspects that are the key aspect, no one takes real action.
Yeah, I think these are real problems. I think that you need to have continuous dialogue between the people, keep on pushing on it, so as you said, everybody wants to, it is a competitive business, definitely, but at least you need to have the regular dialogue, and then there should be steps forward rather than steps backward.
No,
Okay, so
the only issue is that if we continue like this, now the production of natural rubber could be at risk because now if you look at Indonesia, production in Indonesia is declining every year, and there is no action in terms of new plantations or replant, and there is nothing right now there. And in some other cases, now we have the same issue. So worldwide, natural rubber production is going down. So if we don't do something about it and to make things right, no, we are going to be in trouble very soon.
well, we talk some other time on that issue. I think
Yeah.
there's a long talk on that. You know, but we're talking here in the Africa side, okay, and there are people are, you know, Ivory Coast is, you know, penetrating into the traditional natural market areas. So, Edward, do you have any issues like diseases, plant diseases in your area? Like in
Say it
Thailand, you
again?
have a disease.
No, no. For we do not have plant disease as much as I'm concerned. I didn't hear no farmers complaining about disease on our side. I hope I have incorrect data, but I, for what I know, I didn't heard about any particular disease on our side. Maybe Salvatore has another information on that.
No, I don't think there is any disease right now in Cote d'Ivoire.
Okay, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. So keep that way. And you know, you talk about this, yeah. You talk about the tappers, you know, training of the tappers. You know, you have. I think one thing is that you is a challenge is you talked about the yield. You know, young and mature trees, different levels of yields, and so how are you serious issue of skilled tappers? So how you guys are managing the getting the right tappers and they train them?
One of our two regulator, APOMAC, investing a lot into that. They're doing a great job, because it's a new commodity. I mean, it's a new commodity. The production, when you see this increasing production, means that there is tappers who tapping. If not, there is no rubber, all right? And they are the one who put a budget for that, and they train people to tap, and they teach them the right way of doing it. Now we still not have enough tapper, but I would say mainly it's because of farmer income. And then I apologize. We go back again at what Salvatore point out every time, and I'm very happy it's sharing, and we are doing that together because we have the same view. I only can pay, like, we are an exception, okay? We are an exception that we are able to pay directly from farmers. So we pay them higher price, not because we are for-profit company, we are not an NGO, okay? We need to be very clear about that. But our vision is what? If we pay them right, they will go next month harvest very quick, and they even can produce more, and we'll be able to buy. Okay, I don't want to pay all around Ivory Coast. I already did that. I know exactly what's going on around. I know that around me there are 200 tons available in the harvest season. I'm trying to collect the most that I can and making sure that my farmers are better off to be able to deliver me 210,000 tons next year, potentially. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So the farmers, the tappers, it's willing to tell to his friend to go into tapping when every month he has his cash available. The money is there, okay? When there is lack of tappers, and the price of tapping move from 75 CFA to 90 CFA per kilo. That's changed a lot. They give them more income so they can get the cousin to them to the field and tap more quickly to move to the next plantation very fast. Okay, but when we pay the farmers have an income that is barely matching their needs. They not even want to talk with tappers about raising or whatever. And most problematic, the biggest problem is that when they are not paying the tappers fast, they're losing the tapper. So when they're not selling cash, they're losing the tapper, and the tapper go tap someone else. Okay, and that's becoming more challenging to get another one because maybe it's not tapping right, maybe it's stealing your capital. There's a lot of factors. So really the stream of income need to be addressed very, very correctly, because right now Aquamark having difficulties because even knowing it's an extremely huge job, today farmers are telling them, you telling us to produce more, but we're selling a cheaper price compared to the price that you are telling they should be buying from us. So I don't know if you guys are catching. So Aquamark is not more it's ain't more focused on having more tappers. It's like, oh my gosh, how am I be able to make sure that my benchmark price is respected from the stakeholders who are paying on the ground? He cannot control the market, that's for sure. But having a smooth supply chain will for sure influence the income of farmers. And that's the key. So I think that we need to look into that. If not tappers, we have unemployment here. Okay, we have young people. We are not a rich country. Okay, we're a developing country. We need jobs. Tapping is not a bad job. It's a sort of income. If you're doing correctly, you're able to make a good living. You can live, okay? You can survive. You can match up, face your challenges, okay? It's different compared to Malaysia, where tappers hardly can face their own needs. Here, by tapping, you can have enough revenue to survive and respond to the needs of your family. But is the structure ready and smooth to make the tapping attractive on the long term? So that's the point. And it all starts with income of the farmers. And I'm saying I'm not an NGO company. I'm a trader. I buy at $100. I buy at $500. I'll keep buying. No matter the prices, I'll keep buying. But I have the understanding of if the market doesn't allow me to buy at the competitive price for farmers, those people, they will just stop doing rubber. They will keep doing more cocoa, cashew, or whatever, and that's it. Very easily. Okay. So I don't know if I respond to your question. If that,
Well, understand the real situation about the tapper's life in Ivory. How about the in Thailand you usually get floods, heavy because of the heavy rains, and do you guys have issues like that? Where you cannot tap your rubber, certain any area get flooded. You have that issues, so probably the senator can tell you that some months we have a huge rain and flooded, and the price increase and supply have issues, and we keep on talking every year this story. And this is what you guys have to look at.
You guys have the monsoon, right?
Monsoon, yeah. Yes, sometime unplanned rains also come on our way, sometimes. So yeah. So how is the situation for you in your area?
Here we have the rain season, okay, but that doesn't at all affect the tapping, not at all. It may affect the logistics to get out the goods from the field, but it doesn't affect the tapping. There is not flood where you see all the plantation full of water. Then we say no, I couldn't tap because too much rain. No, here is not like that.
You mentioned that the Kapalam goes to mostly to Asia. Which country is importing a lot? Which is the easiest country that Ivory Coast able to export to in Asian countries?
Malaysia, number one.
Oh, okay.
Malaysia. Oh, big time. They're a big time buyer from us. And then we have Vietnam, Indonesia, in this order. So we are Malaysia number one, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Indonesia.
Oh, that's nice to know. I see. And you have the government has invested any plantations also, or all of them are
No.
smallholders? No, not at all.
No,
The government is not
all
involved at all.
is more. Not at all. Government does not invest in plantation in IVC. The plantation are owned by farmers, whether it is cocoa, whether it is cashew, or whatever. The government may invest into process. They did it in cotton, but they privatized the factory that had government as a stakeholder. I know that through couple channel they do have couple investment in cashew factories too. For what I don't know about any rubber process factory that it's government owned.
Oh, well, rubber processing factories are government owned? No.
No.
And you're investing the TSR factory. Do you have like a special privileges government is giving so that you can invest on the processing side of it? Or the tax benefit? Yeah. You are investing in the TSR factory, so that you can process it and add more value to the rubber. Is the government is giving any special privileges or incentives for you to invest in the in terms of the tax or anything, soft loans or anything like that?
Yes, they're doing so. We have a tax break of the machinery that we import. We have tax break on the piece of maintenance piece for 5 years. So we have tax break facilities. Okay, we do have local banks that government banks that are facilitating the cash flow for the buying, like a pledge the rubber to give you the time to process it. But still, it's type of expensive here. The bank rates are very expensive, not competitive compared to Asia. Here, local banks we borrow at 12%, so it's very, very high, compared to Asia, Europe, or West Africa. So most of the factory that they get, they come out now. Most of the time, they have whether equity investment in, or they are like joint venture with multinationals or whatever.
And how is the overall economy in Ivory Coast now? Politics is stable?
Say again?
The political stability is there, right? Political stability is there, and how is the economy, overall economy now?
Yeah, I mean, now it's very stable. The political side don't have any particular, let's say, bad news compared to the region where we have some government that are run by the military, particularly in Burkina, Mali, Guinea-Conakry. Here locally, we're still on a presidential democracy. Government, it's very stable. It's been doing, trying to improve the economic aspect. We are the fastest growing economy of UEMOA. UEMOA, it's the zone, economic zone where we all share the same currency, which is the franc CFA. So Ivory Coast is the #1 economy into this region, and we are one of the top economy of CEDEAO too. CEDEAO, it's the country, West Africa, sub-Saharan country. Not only it's they don't have only the currency as the common how to say, the common what linked them, it's the geographic position, not only the currency. We have a French-speaking country and the English-speaking country in the CEDEAO. We have Ghana as part of the CEDEAO, which is an English-speaking country. So we do have a kind of very full, compared to the region, a strong economy. Okay, infrastructure has been huge lately. China has been investing a lot into local infrastructure, and we have port infrastructure too that are increasing. The middle class is going up. There is a lot of foreign, there is Indian. Olam is playing a big role here locally as Singaporean company playing, working locally. We have Alsham who's running a factory, two factories, if I'm not wrong, locally. So we are open. It's an open country, and welcome people to come and visit and invest here locally. I think it's a place to be.
Yeah, so a lot of action is happening, and the country, so it's nothing to worry about much, and people can do business and do collaborations among with the all of Ivorians, right? Ivorians, that's what you call them. Yeah.
Yes, Ivorians. I mean, you will agree with me that there is bad people everywhere. Okay, when you go and you invest in a country, you have to make sure that everybody has his own way of choosing who is his partner. You agree with me? This is for sure. It's a common tool, and the statistics say that in a poor country you're faced a lot with people who maybe have a short-term vision and maybe want to twist people or whatever. But that's not the backbone of our economy. Okay. I think that we have regulators, we have organization in place who are able to guide or at least help give a feedback on companies. Okay. And I think that an investor or somebody that wants to invest, an investor, need to be aware. I don't think that investor is a naive person, but there is a saying in our country, in IVC, in Ivory Coast, that goes like, you never show your village with the left hand. Okay, so meaning that you don't say, oh, bad, my village, everything is bad there. So then if you say yourself your village bad, it's not the foreigner who says it's good. Do you agree with me? But we are trying, I think that you're trying to give you the reality of what's going out here. So we are not, all respect, we are not like in Mali, Liberia, Niger, those countries are difficult now to invest in because of lack of infrastructure. There is difficulties to penetrate, understand who does what, even knowing less regulator who help foreign money to get in correctly. And so here it's difficult. Now, if you steal or you are stealing from foreign investors, you'll be convinced. I mean, very easily. The law, it's applied. It's pretty fair. But you need for sure to be aware. Ivorian people are not cheaters. I'm not cheaters, and they are cheaters everywhere. Okay, but I think that I assume and I hope we are smart men discussing, and we know that in a poor country, a lot of opportunist people trying to get to you because they see the opportunity, short-term opportunity, okay? But if you want to win 200 times, you will get exposed to that. If you want to make a business on the long term, you will choose the secure and more clear path that will lead you to success, maybe not short term, but for sure in the medium term. We are a heart of opportunity, I think.
So Salvatore, I want to ask you this, are you planning any activities to bring this African community stronger and collaborative manner through IRSG?
Well, they are member of ISG. They are already there. So we are working with the government. We will have also soon some industry members. So I think we are collaborating closely, and as I said, we already organized a World Rubber Summit with them to promote Ivory Coast as as a rubber producer, and also to show what they have to offer. As I said, they have a lot of potentials there. So I think it's important that they also use organizations as ISG to promote themselves, to promote their internal growth. So I think ISG is there, available, and we already have a lot of collaboration with the Ivorian authorities. So very happy to do that, because as I said,
It's
potentials are there.
It's very much necessary in need to bring them together and be stronger in terms of the information, in terms of the technology use, and to make the product useful for the whole world.
Yep.
Edward, I want to touch a little bit out of the rubber part, okay, but still connected to the rubber. I saw a nice picture behind you. I want to know who is that important person. That means somebody is very important to you, I guess. Who is that?
Yeah, the whole man with the same big nose as mine. This is my grandfather. It's the head of our family here. I'm in office, and we are family business, and it's a name. I'm named. The name is it's Edouard Milech too, and I was named to him. So it was a professor
Okay.
during the colonization years, and he's the one who put my dad and my uncle to school, and always give us the sense of step, step by step. We do not speculate into the rubber business and into cashew. We don't do a lot of things. We only do two things, rubber and cashew. And we're doing some little investment into local tomato production. But beside that, we don't do nothing else because we are not that smart. we only are able to manage and understand the edges of our area of competences. So we don't want to be. We need to make sure that the next generation too are able to profit from what we've been doing now, and that's very important to remember that it's keep looking to us and making sure that we've been correct. Integrity is a must for us, and we have we make sure that the next generation is able to be better off if they deserve that.
First of all, good to know that that's your grandfather and the same name. So I believe that he's a professor. I believe that you a lot of teachings, a lot of values instill on you.
Yeah,
so I'm sure you continue his guidance. So I'm happy to know that. You are a part of this young community, that what you call, under everybody 75% is a 30-35 age group. I believe you are the same group. Is it right, Edward?
Yes, it's correct.
Okay, and so I wish you the great success. I see the lot of plans. You are not only, of course, I'm not asking any secret, but as Salvador was mentioning, it's a when your vision to the world, and the people see the potential, how to build relationships, and you were saying that first you do and the TSR, and also you are looking towards the establishing finished products, probably you never know in the near future. So I want to see millage trading a long way to go, and with continuous growth. Yeah. I want to end the session because we talked a long, I guess. Is it right? Salvatore, any final remarks before we end this session?
But no really final remarks. I think it was. I think Edward said a lot about Ivory Coast. I think the picture is clear, and it's a pleasure, and hope all the best to Ivory Coast and to Edward himself, and in bocca al lupo, we would say in Italy,
Exactly.
And so I think I'm sure it will be a success story. The Ivory Coast one will be a success story.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Edward, any final words?
Yes,
the message for this session. Yeah.
Thank you, Karam, for inviting me. It was an honor for me really to be part of this session. You've been a great host, very, very top, and I really appreciate it. And I shared to our general manager of our regulator, Conseil EVA Parmiaville. He will be sending a message to you on this vision too, because for us it is important. We are the one doing it, okay? The organization, Salvatore wants helping our local organization to have to do the right things and be on the right path. So we need to be more part of a session like yours and understand and have correct information about the rubber worldwide. So I thank you. I thank you, Salvatore, too, for the great words, and I think the best is yet to come. And so nothing much to add more than that.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you, Edward. Thank you, Salvatore. It's a wonderful discussion, and time to say bye-bye now, and we talk again. I look forward to your general manager's video, in terms of talking about, what is his message, video message also we include in the part of this, conversation today. Yeah? So, okay, guys, thank you very much. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Salvatore, un abbraccio.
Okay, I start.